Ahoy hoy, and welcome to the 25 Cent Play podcast for Tuesday, June 19th, the only cell phone podcast on the internet where you can taste the vinegar. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, I'm joined by Steve. Steve, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Vita water, coconut water, vinegar.
Excellent. Dip your Easter eggs in it. And Charles, how's it going?
As a big fan of Vietnamese drinking vinegars, I would say that we haven't gone too far.
Good. It's good to know that there's always some reason to justify my claims.
Yeah.
Geez, we haven't done this in a while.
Yeah, we were off.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
You were off being in picking up on your season ticket holdership of the Timbers.
Yes, this time last Tuesday, I was standing on the field.
You were fan appreciated, right?
I was. So it was very cool. I got to go on the field and mull around and stuff. And you know the thing I realized?
You only got to mull around? You didn't like to get to do anything else?
There was a lot of stuff I could have done if I wanted to wait in line.
Did you get to
lines.
Shots on goals?
Did you mow the lawn?
No, those were for small children, and they weren't on the real goal. They were on small goals.
Did you pretend like you got hit and fell?
No.
I heard that's a very soccer thing to do.
You know what? I'm sorry that I didn't think to make that joke. I'm sorry I didn't think to make that joke. But no, I did.
Next year.
I did sit on the bench, and I had my girlfriend take a picture of me and sitting on the bench. And
Could you wait in line to be awarded a yellow card?
No, you just start cursing.
For diving.
You just start cursing, and then Connect hears you cursing, and then the game will react.
That's the Sounders. Sounders are the Xbox team.
Oh.
Yeah. One thing that is worth noting is that as I stood on the field and looked at the goal, it was so big. And I just turned to my girlfriend and I said, "It's so big. Like, why don't we score more?" Like,
You can't
God,
hit that? Come on.
I feel a lot. I mean, our team's not great, but I feel a lot worse now that I've been down there, and I'm just like this field is like fucking small, and like the goal is so big. It's like, how can the ball not go in there? Like, it should be like, it should be like cricket, where the object is like, just to avoid the ball, from being scored, like, by your players.
Mm.
I guess the way I just said that, I kind of explained the way soccer works now. But
later on, we're going to talk about how easy it is to hit home runs, and that the 3-point is like
3-point line is too close.
3-point line
You're
is
too close, man.
Yeah. It's got to be half court or nothing.
Exactly.
So,
I could win that Kia from here. But yeah, so I did miss podcasting. But Steve, you did post up a YouTube video.
I did post a YouTube video
in place of our
yes,
place of our podcast.
If you are listening, because you have recently subscribed to our incredible contest, not featuring something we own in any way, but we do have licenses or validations. I don't know what are the invites.
They're just invites.
No, they're just gifts.
Yeah.
They're just
they're Steam gifts.
Yes. We are using Steam to promote our podcast. I'm just going to stay it plain. But if you're here to hear that,
I like to think of it as we're using our podcast to promote Steam.
Okay.
Yeah.
One or the other. So Dota 2 keys. We will after this podcast, we will be selecting them using a random number generator. It's legitimately on the books. We aren't just giving them to our girlfriends because they wouldn't play anyway. And
I tried to convince my girlfriend to play.
No,
my wife wouldn't let her.
Yeah.
Also, we'll be picking that. So check your YouTube email. That's how we'll be contacting you if you won. This is just a reminder. Don't be like me and sign up your YouTube account to an email address you don't use. Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
right, because you will not find out.
So once we successfully not only choose people but are able to get in touch with them and actually give it away, then next podcast we'll announce the usernames.
Well,
the
actually,
actual people
we'll announce if we'll include a request if you want your name announced. If you don't, you'll respond by saying, "Please don't announce my name because my name is Mr. Tiddlycock." And it's hilarious.
I don't think anybody named Tiddlycock subscribed. The only one that sticks out was one of the first ones. The username was I Flush Kittens.
Ocularly. I'm hoping one of the two people that I give the Dota keys to will be able to teach me how to play the game.
So are we going to go right into what we've been
called
playing?
It's called a segue.
Well, it's news. We're going to call it news.
It's called
because this was all brought about by news.
Yeah, just
okay.
oh God. I'm so bad with segues, and that this one time,
This
you
one
guys just
time.
fucking dropped a depth charge on it.
It's too easy. I like to fuck them all up on you.
So hopefully, whoever
Charlie
gets
points
these
at
keys
beer.
can whoever gets these keys can teach me how to actually play the game. So I came home
See,
from
that's
camping.
that's the downfall with this crazy contraption that they have hooked these beers
Yeah.
into.
So tonight's podcast is sponsored by Canned
No,
Red
it is
Hook
not.
IPA.
It is not sponsored by Red Hook, and don't hold those up.
Because every microbrew has to
Hey, I like Red Hook. Red Hook's a good company.
has to can their beers now.
They have a nice logo.
Yeah. Speaking of canning beers, this has nothing to do with video games, but it does have something to do with canning beers. Hopworks will be canning shortly. They got their lineup and running.
I saw so I guess I'm okay with canned microbrews as long as they're not already bottling. So like Red Hook, you can buy this in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Fort George doesn't bottle; they only can, and they only can tall boys. Like that's their
Which
thing.
is convenient.
Yes, that's their thing, right? And so Hopworks, they have 22s. They don't have 6-packs. So the can will be their 6-pack. It's not like you have to stand there with like Bud Light and it's like, should I get the bottles or the cans, man?
Yeah. Coconut water.
So you went camping.
So I went camping and I was in the woods without internet. The worst part is that I had 1 bar of Edge service, but I couldn't check Facebook or anything. So I just fucking sat and drank and stared at Mount Hood for like 12 hours, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's nothing wrong with that.
But I got home, unloaded the car, went and sat down on my computer. I was like, shit, I haven't played League of Legends in like nigh on 30 hours. Like, let's see what's up. And then I found out what was up it was down.
You get all excited, too. I got all excited because even though it said down on the website, I was like, it's getting the patch. This is great.
So yeah, they patched something and something went awry. They've not been explicit about what went ill, but they might tell us because they're that kind of company.
But I guess what happened was they had put the patch out. It was 1.161, I think.
Yeah.
And it made some changes to the login and the way that the system actually starts and people join games.
The matchmaking was the first thing that was a problem.
Yeah.
That you'd be able to get in, and there were people claiming that you could play custom games because custom games, obviously, there's no matchmaking necessary. But I was in a couple of queues, and the games never began. And there was already a warning in the client that said like we are aware of a problem that will result in games not beginning. And I was like, oh, that doesn't seem right. Okay, cool.
No.
It's good to know that because Charlie, the matchmaking wasn't a problem because the second that's down, he's just like, all right, all random, all mid, like custom game, let's do this.
Yeah. So it proceeded to go down like a clown. That's bad for a number of reasons. One, people like to play video games, but two, they have. For this case, they have something called the tournament realm, which allowed for DreamHack to be able to continue their tournament. And
I think the public beta realm was up too.
GESL or what was it?
No, I think it was GES. Jeez.
They didn't do a great job with their tournament. We'll talk about that later. But regardless, there was league going on kind of, but it was running on vapors. It was running strong on vapors.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, couldn't they not? Even though they could play the games, they couldn't be spectated, meaning they couldn't be cast.
Well, that was GSEL's problem. I don't know what happened at DreamHack.
Yeah, I think I don't know if GESL.
Okay,
that's even what it was. Had the same kind of access that DreamHack does.
Well, they did have the tournament.
I wonder if the League of Legends players at the DreamHack had the same treat that the Han players had. But before let's tell the story.
Let's talk about what we know.
Let's tell the story chronologically. So in desperation, we played Dota 2. And so Dota 2 allows you to have bots on your team.
I wouldn't say desperation because I played the game for several hours while waiting for League of Legends to come up.
And I was basically like, oh well, Steve's gonna play Dota 2. I'll play that. That's cool. I knew what I was getting into. I knew how bad it was gonna be.
Oh, okay.
It was you who was the babe in the woods.
So because so I like if you go and these podcasts chronologue my understanding of MOBA games or lack there, like my going from not understanding anything to understanding things through the lens of specifically League of Legends. And so there are conventions in Dota 2 that blew my mind that didn't blow anybody else's mind. In fact, it was probably mind-blowing they were left out of League of Legends. Like, what's this thing for? And I'm told, oh, you take that and then you can eat a tree to get health back. And I'm like, eat a tree? And then I realized that the trees, rather than just being like a block of geometry, are actually like individual objects that you could like walk through a forest and eat.
Well, eating them is not...
What level bots did we play?
They were easy.
There were 2 levels below that.
They weren't easy enough.
There were easier and passive.
Yes.
We probably should have played passive.
I'd love to play passive. So the random dude I selected to play, whose name was Sniper, and he looked like some sort of dwarf with like Tom Clancy night vision goggles or something. I was like, yeah, let me play that dude.
And then couldn't get in the game.
Then the computer picked that dude.
Couldn't get in the game for like 3 minutes because he didn't realize that the computer picked one as well.
Yeah, the computer counterpicked him.
Oops.
So I picked some sort of horrible Viper monster who did seem cool.
He is pretty cool because he's got those little
yeah.
slug turrets that.
Yeah,
like,
Heimerdinger.
He's the bug Heimerdinger.
Yes. All of the characters have characters that match all of the other games.
Many are similar. Not all.
Very similar.
But many are similar. Yes. In retrospect, we should have just played Warcraft 3.
I don't have Warcraft 3.
Well,
I mean, I have Warcraft 3, but I don't have it here in...
Oh. Either way,
Portland.
we should have played that. Because, there's nothing more fun than putting on the layer of controlling an entire army while playing Dota.
So, from my one experience, so I was so angry and so frustrated, and my... the way I felt with how, like, out of contention we got, and that there was just, like, no way, like, nothing that I could do to, like, change it. Like, which is the way I used to feel in League of Legends, like, bot games. There'd just be a point where I was like, oh my god, there's, like, nothing you can do here.
Why are we still playing?
Yeah, I honestly felt I was like, this game has no mercy, like, I guess other than surrendering. It's just like, if I don't stand up and walk away from this, it's like this game will curb stomp me and put things up my butt. Like, because I walk up to the enemies and I am disintegrated instantaneously. So, like, why even have them take out our Nexus?
Because you were missing the lesson that you learned from League of Legends. Although even more so in Dota, you need to be really careful when you start the game. Because by the time you were getting disintegrated, the bots that were going against you were like 6 levels higher than you, because
right.
you had died so much near the beginning.
Also, too, like, there are a lot of things that have been worked into League that make up for it, and like having towers that do a lot of damage. You think, well, that would make the game harder. No, that makes the game easier, because if you get insta-killed by the frickin' tower, then you're done. Like, the tower gets the kill, and the other person doesn't get any gold for killing you or experience. Or you go and you get killed by the tower and you learn immediately, I don't fight under tower. Whereas in Dota, you could take tower shots. You can take tower shots all day if you really want. I mean, like, but you can't take tower shots and take minion shots and take shots from a champion. And more so, champions in general just are more offensively oriented. Like, the way those games are made, the way the Dota balance, the way I perceive it at least, is that everyone has a great offensive potential and a pretty poor defensive potential very early. And then things start to scale. And those go out of proportion very quickly, because you always have the ability to kind of wreck someone. But if they know what they're doing, they're not going to get wrecked. They're not going to get into a case where they're fighting. They're not going to dive at each other, and they're really going to enforce that passive play. That passive play, which you only see at the high levels, or you only see with careful League of Legends players, because there is the potential to play a very risky style and like, oh, okay, yeah, I fed like hell, but I also got a ton of kills. In Dota, you're just going to feed. you aren't going to be able to do that trade where you're like, yeah, I totally, like, yeah, it kind of worked out. There is no Master Yi in Dota 2, is what I'm saying. You can't just go in there and just, like, go crazy early on and fight like
Not yet, anyway.
Seemed like there were a lot of champions.
There are tons.
There
will be, 200? There are 200 Dota ones, right?
Yeah.
Who knows if they all get invited to the
in
party,
there.
but...
No, I think the idea is to have all of them.
Yeah.
Which is utterly insane.
Well, that keeps that also gives them great blog posts and reasons for people to keep writing about the game. Every time a champion is released is going to be a new update. So.
Yeah.
And we know how well Valve has done with that. So
yeah. I hope that for like there's so many crazy things in League of Legends, and the fact that the last two dudes have been brothers, and it's been like dude with a tie you to the train tracks mustache because you didn't pay the rent, like that. Those are the least creative. Yeah, Draven and what's his name are the two least creative people. Like their moveset is pretty creative insofar as it's OP as hell with the bleed and all that stuff. But like in terms of like the models and like who they are, like,
I'd say Draven is pretty goofy looking. Like that guy's pretty crazy. But yes, Darius is seriously like dude with axe. He could have been the bad guy and he could be the sub boss in any video game since about like I'm gonna say the Nintendo one.
The only way that they can salvage
the Atari would be a stretch.
Yeah.
The only
the Atari was not good at modeling shoulder pads.
The only way they can salvage him creatively is if like the next skin that comes out is like Daniel Day-Lewis from Gangs of New York.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I would buy that. I would buy that. That would be a way to salvage that dude.
There's always a chance that you get a Mafia version.
To go with Mafia Misfortune and Mafia Graves.
Yeah.
Mafia Twitch, and there's another Mafia. There's a lot of Mafia. They like the Mafia.
Yeah.
They like the Mafia.
What's the difference between Mafia Twitch and Mafia Master Splinter?
Nothing. Well, the Master Splinter is not completely broken and doesn't require stealth update. So the fallout of this was Matt learned to play Dota 2.
Yeah.
And secondarily,
I wouldn't
all
say
the
he
League of
learned
Legends
how to
players
play.
will receive a 10 game boost for the downtime because Riot's real nice to people.
When does that go into effect? Next patch or immediately?
Probably this weekend, I'm guessing.
Okay.
It's all I'm gonna do when I'm in New York.
I have to make sure that my wife knows
I'm
that
gonna
I'm busy.
I'm gonna take that money and buy me Misfortune.
There you go.
So
I have to be level 20 by next time we podcast, so I can make my. Oh, by the way, speaking, I was.
Before we get off topic, I just want to say so after the Dota 2 game in double desperation, Steve downloaded Han and sent me a fucking invite.
That's Heroes of New Earth.
Yeah, and so I followed the link, and I had no intention of installing and playing the game, but I did realize when I went to their website that the DreamHack finals were going on, and I was like, well, if I can't play League of Legends, maybe I'll watch this game, because if I watch this game with commentary, it'll be a lot more fun than if I play this game with zero context.
Maybe this would be great.
And I was like, the commentators always give insightful information about strategy and what's going on and what's about to happen and why people are doing stuff. And so it starts and they go through the picks and they're talking about all these champions and crazy bands and like how they can't believe it. And it's just great out of context when like all the names are just gibberish to you.
It's like,
and it's like, yeah. And then it starts and the guy's like, like the guy says something about positioning. He's like, oh, I'm sorry, I forget. Like, I have to think about what I'm saying because since the players can hear us, like, I can't give away any information.
It was just at that point I messaged Matt and was like, wait, no, that's not right. Then I just closed the window. I was like, I'm not watching this crap.
Also, for reasons I have no explanation for, the announcer said it was 2:30 a.m. local time. So the finals were at
DreamHack's in Sweden.
Yes, local time meaning Swedish time. That's why we were watching it in the afternoon.
Yes.
Well, they're European. They don't get up till around noon.
2:30. They don't get up till around midnight.
Don't you think it's a little strange to have people up at 2:30
Wasn't
playing
the
games
final,
for money.
though?
It was the final. It was
They've
the
probably
very
been
last
playing
game.
all day.
This is not unique.
Do you know how long some of those games go?
Sure, but MLG is done by like 3:00 in the afternoon.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's
they got like
StarCraft.
3 days.
Did you? We'll talk about it.
Okay, so anyways, so maybe that's not as big of a deal as I think, but yeah, it was like the teams were open air on a stage in an open air auditorium where the announcers were broadcasted the whole auditorium.
which has been the mode that DreamHack and Intel Extreme Masters have used. That is how they do it.
Yeah, this last MLG apparently was the first MLG I believe that League of Legends was in a booth.
We'll talk about that.
This is all crazy to me. So the point is that I watched the entire last match, and it was like Fnatic had a 1-0 lead over whatever jobbers they were playing, and then they completely rolled them like immediately. And it was basically like, yeah, they were talking about nuances. So where we talk about AD and AP, it seems like they were talking about like strength champs, agility champs, and some third thing.
Intelligence.
And so that made me think, and Dota had those boots where you could cycle between those things, and that made me think that maybe it made me ask the question, wait, so is League of Legends simpler because it's just magic and strength? And there's no, like, is there this third thing in these other games that, like, differentiates the champions and the strategies and how you would build somebody?
Well, you have to remember there's tanks. They're more. I mean, I don't know about the other guys.
Sure, but it's not a.
But there's no like agility, like attack speed, like movement speed is just movement speed. I mean, there are faster champions than others, but that's not a key differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, correct. You wouldn't say somebody's AS over AD. Like the reason the attack speed is meaningful is for the sake of damage, right?
Right.
So it's like that's not a differentiator. It's simply you bought one.
Well,
thing.
remember also too that like agility and movement are two different things or something like that, and it might have to do with like dodging.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
so
I'm way out of my league.
But yeah, so all I had hoped was that because I was watching, the final game of a big tournament, that the announcers would give me insight to make it enjoyable, and they talked around everything that was going on the whole time, and
because they couldn't.
Yes, and basically had to wait until after somebody had died or something, after the fight had broken up, to be like, oh man. And in fact, there was one point where somebody went to like be back, or whatever the Han equivalent is, but it was like the chase had just broken off, and so by announcing that the person was doing it, the other team wouldn't have known that they weren't running away anymore. They actually like turned around and like ducked back up because the announcer said the guy was doing, so they knew the guy was stationary instead of not running away still. And I was just like, oh my god, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah, and that's why I couldn't watch it anymore, because I was just like, how is this in any way fair?
So the idea that they would
or
do
entertaining.
I mean, like, don't have announcers then, or like don't have the announcers on your stream to the viewer at home be the people in the auditorium.
Yeah.
So needless to say, last weekend was not a high watermark for esports. Since we didn't record last week, I did want to talk about MLG because I think it is actually a high watermark for esports. There was they did record numbers, but they always seem to do record numbers. They included, they being MLG, included League of Legends in a full capacity. They did a feature tournament, which was a few teams last time, and it was not covered as heavily. This time they had a full gambit of full league tournament, I would say. The only people that were suspiciously missing, much like Modern Warfare 2, there was no Russian. M5 was not there. I can only imagine it's either visas or possibly that it's really damn expensive. And
I would guess that it's probably really damn expensive to get
that would be
there.
the
And for
guess.
the prize purse that they're playing for?
Yeah.
That might be the
not
reverse
worth
of
it.
what one of the two you was telling me, that like solo mid like can't make
Oh, they
Solo
won't go
Mid
to
was
your-
not
yeah.
at DreamHack because even if they won it, they would have like been $1,000 in the hole because they are not. Even though they are the best, They are not. They are not.
There are plenty of things.
They're
that
not sponsored heavily enough to travel. Yeah. This is also the same reason why MVP and a lot of people from Team IM, going back to StarCraft, where there is a lot of money on the line. There's not a lot of money. There's not enough money to warrant them giving up their chance of winning GSL to go do MLG. They would rather stay in Korea and focus on GSL so that when, maybe if they're like, they would take it by the extent of, I will go and wait until that big prize purse is available and try to just use my straight off baller skill to work my way from the pool from the lowest point in the tournament to the championship, which, to be fair, MVP came pretty close last time he tried to do that. So things like that happen, but other champs are other StarCraft players can make that work. Also, other StarCraft players are supported to travel. I think that's one of the reasons that MC. He actually has a foreign sponsor that pays for him to go to foreign tournaments. That seems like good money to me. If okay, this Korean team won't pay to move this guy around, but you're a foreign sponsor, it'd be like, dude, this guy's gonna win. You just got to get him there. So. Hell yeah, I'll the Brussels International esports throwdown. Yeah, hell yeah. Everybody else here is,
it's at a dairy farm.
Yeah, and MC shows up. He's like, yo, let's do this. And he puts on his Teemo hat and it goes down. So, ML, as you were saying about the booths, those booths were bought and paid for by Riot. They're owned by Riot.
Oh, really?
So Riot, and I don't know if that was, obviously it's some sort of handshake agreement between MLG and Riot, but I would imagine any North American tournament that happens, they will be able to use these booths for. So that'll be good.
Maybe because maybe Riot realizes that their game is meant to be played without somebody yelling, watching, the screen sniping.
It's going to. I can only imagine the reason that they had to do that is because even though League of Legends was, you wouldn't really be able to tell this from the broadcast, but right next to that was StarCraft. So there were the StarCraft booths on the stage.
You could tell,
and there was another stage right next to it. So it wasn't like that there would have been enormous bleed over, and you wouldn't have you wouldn't be able to focus it the way that they do other events in Europe, where they're much larger and they can put these stages and they can separate the things very well. This was it was kind of a convention to allow this to happen. So, Team Solo Mid came through. There were some really great games, mostly against CLG, European, and North American flavors. They did what they said they would do. They did well. They worked as a team, and to my esteem, like, this is the first time I've really enjoyed watching any of this stuff. Like, most of the time I'm like, okay, from a player, I'm like, well, who did they pick? What did they pick? I could read this off of a piece of paper. I don't really need to see this happen. I could be like, oh, they jungled with this and they did this. Okay, these are things I should be aware of. Oh, this was the standout move. This was the standout player. Oh, these are things that'll probably happen. Like, before anyone cared about Urgot, someone played Urgot well in a tournament, and now Urgot's a ban.
Yep. That's why I got Urgot. But so one thing I want to say that I thought was my coolest thing of the games I watched was in the game that CLG North America actually beat TSM in the final best of 3. That game, they decided, and the reason why I like this so much is the metagame and the adherence to the metagame until someone is brave enough to break it drives me crazy. Mm-hmm. And you can go back and listen to the podcast, Charlie, where you explain to me solo top versus, and you're like, oh, solo top. And I'm like, but what is it that makes the top lane the solo lane? Asking if there was a
proximity to dragon. I can tell you that now.
Oh, okay.
That's the answer. I didn't know it.
Okay, but yeah, but that was that's a good
great
reason.
answer.
But I didn't know if it was something about like mechanically that in a vacuum, like if you were gonna do it, that'd be the way to do it. And I guess maybe the proximity to dragon is a good reason. But it's just like it drives me crazy the like that everyone's going to adhere to those conventions, much like you say, like, you know, like Urgot gets banned now in games, and like I bought Urgot and I'm trying to play Urgot because I saw him played well at really high levels. You know, the game that Counter Logic Gaming took was that they broke the meta and they put two people, the guy who was the top lane. It wasn't that the champ the person was playing was that good. It was that the person was that good. They were playing Kale. I think it was Dyrus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's that they double teamed him and took him out of the equation. And the person that stayed at bot and held bot by himself didn't need to do anything crazy. They just needed to play safe. And by having somebody play safe at the bottom and breaking the meta at the top, they won that game.
Yes.
And that was the coolest thing to me. And it was like they couldn't do that 2 games back to back. And frankly, I think their champion selection in the third game was like completely fucking bizarre.
Their champion selection and the bans in the third game were really weird because it let solo mid go back to the basically the selection that they rolled through the entire tournament with.
Yeah. So that's the thing that really impressed me was that somebody broke the meta and completely destroyed like solo mid, you know, plays the meta, sets the meta. CLG realized they weren't going to win that way, so they broke it and they fucking destroyed them that second game.
Well, the key is that
they made them look sad.
Speaking of breaking the meta, I mean, like why M5 Moscow 5 broke onto the scene was by breaking the meta, by doing crazy things like support jungler and crazy counter jungling and stuff like that is what has informed and created this current version of solo mid. Is that they have perfected a lot of crazy stuff that is within the meta. Not that you have to do something so dramatic that you're now, you've created a scenario where you have to do something very dramatic. They have figured out like, okay, yeah, we'll do this, and we'll have our mid really roam around the map. We'll make sure our mid is like really good at roaming around the map, or our Odd One has just stepped up his game at every flight so that, before it was, Odd One was in the conversation of great junglers. Now he is top tier, and they included a really solid top tier top laner. And all of those things were shifts as that meta changed. They shifted with it. They are basically, they are growing with the meta instead of trying to break the meta. I would say that's one of the things that's making them really successful is they can take advantage of all those things that make the meta game so strong, and then they can also then tweak it so that it's in their favor. So if you want to play standard with them, they'll beat you. If you want to play unconventional, there's a good chance they also will beat you because they have ways to negotiate around really surprising things. Now, if you, much like a game of StarCraft, if you all in one game and you do something really risky, and it works, it's unlikely you're going to be able to do that again. You can't always six pool.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you.
Right.
Oh no, wait, it's the other way around.
So the StarCraft was won by Alive, I believe, who beat Don Regu.
Who's alive?
He's
I don't know, third base.
Yes.
Is he one of the Kespa guys?
No. None of the. I'll get to them, but no, none of the Kespa guys played in the real tournament. The standouts were there. Supposedly there is, if you want to go VOD hunting on this, and you're looking for games. Apparently the Stefano Marine King matches are awesome. There is a championship round match where Don Regu beats Marine King, and again they are about as pitted rivals as you can get. They're very I think that they are about at the same tier of.
Are they MVP?
Goodness.
Are they MVP Nestea juniors?
Right now I'd say that they are on paper better theoretically, but MVP did just win the last GSL, so who's to say he's gone? But all in all, it was a solid showing for StarCraft as usual. Like they had Tasteless Narcosis in. They did not have a day 9 for some reason. I don't quite know why. He probably was going.
He was at Blizzard during that.
Oh, was he doing that? And they
understand.
did some really.
Oh, he was probably playing some unrelated video game. He was probably
No, like the day after GSL was over, like they released videos of him playing StarCraft 2.
Yeah, MLG did
commentating StarCraft 2.
MLG did some videos. There's one on Giant Bomb if you want to check it out, but they did actually show them during MLG of, I'm guessing, people from the balance team at Blizzard, and then it's him and Rob Simpson doing commentary on it. But it sounds it's just that, oh hey, it's day 9, but it might as well be Shilly McShellerstein. It's good that it's day 9 because you're like, oh, it's day 9. He doesn't try to sell me evil shit, and he's selling you evil shit. You got to see, but this was the debut of the Heart of the Swarm, new units. There's no beta yet, so none of this shit is real yet. None of this shit's.
Are we going to be able to get in the beta because we own the?
I don't know what the case is going to be with that.
Probably not.
Will you be in the beta, Steve?
Probably not. You know how hard it is to actually get into a Blizzard beta?
Yeah,
you have to own all of their products. I think that's the first requirement.
And I don't. The stress test for.
Would you buy Diablo 3 if it came with the StarCraft 2 beta?
So
code?
You know what? I will buy Diablo 3 when it's like $10.
Yeah, I'm actually
not going to happen.
I actually,
the Diablo 2 is still $20.
I have Diablo 2. I should just play that.
I was thinking about buying Diablo 3, but then Fat Shark released this game called Crater that I think is like $10.
I'm in the beta for that.
Yeah, and I feel like that is far cheaper and crazy, and will probably fill my NEH.
Did you watch the quick look at that?
I did.
I barely even made it through the tutorial before I uninstalled it.
Okay.
Okay, back
to what I was saying here. Enough of this Crater stuff. It does look interesting. They have robots. So they debuted Heart of the Swarm, and at MLG you could play Heart of the Swarm. Apparently, a lot of people were saying the problem was that when you played, if you played against another person, that other person was just going to play some StarCraft against you and not try to see what happens. There was no gentleman's agreement.
They were going for a win.
Yeah, it was all no gentleman's agreements. But basically, of the stuff I've seen, there is Scorpion style get over here Zerg unit that flies that can pull things in. It's a flying casting unit that lifts and pulls away siege tanks.
So you mean a Phoenix?
No, but it just yanks it. So it just pulls it into the Zerglings instead of lifting it up in the air. Mm-hmm. The mothership is still there. There's mothership core. That's the one that's heavily featured in the one on Giant Bomb. I would recommend you check that out. It's really cool. I saw the Battle Hellions, which, while conceptually are really cool, and if I was a small child, I would want a Battle Hellion toy to play with. I don't quite know how well they're going to work in reality because Hellions are still pretty damn useful. And that's, I think, the big problem is that, how are you going to upgrade an OP race? So they had that there. And then the biggest feature, of course, of MLG was that the introduction of the KESPA players, the Korean esports something or other, such and such. These are the Brood War champs that we've told about. The amazing Brood War champs, they're so good at StarCraft. They'll make your mind bleed. They make memes every time they touch a keyboard.
Dudes like Flash.
Dudes like Flash.
Hey, I got to watch.
Not just like Flash. Flash.
I got to watch Flash play.
Flash, Bisu, Fantasy, Jaedong, all those dudes were there. And what's really great, because this is kind of my first real exposure to them, because aside from watching VODs of Brood War games, which I barely understand, seeing them as being shown off in the same way that we've had all these other StarCraft 2 players who are being elevated to pretty big stars, these guys have held in such reverence. One thing I noticed about them is that a lot of them are not shy from the camera at all because they've been participating in front of the camera for years now. So they're really good at being champions, at, you know, having charisma and having personality and carrying interviews and stuff. So they were a treat to see them talk and stuff. What was less of a treat was to actually watch them play. They obviously, in most cases, they've not been focusing on StarCraft 2 for very long because they didn't get paid to play StarCraft 2, and they will all be carrying over to StarCraft 2 since they've made nice with Kespa's made nice with Blizzard. Kespa has an agreement with MLG that they will share talent, or their talent will be able to appear there.
Yeah, that's the way to put it. I don't know if MLG's sharing anything.
Share talents.
Yeah. Like, hey, you know, if you guys want In Control, he'll come over anytime you need him.
They'll. He apparently did a really good job doing some announcing recently. So way to go, In Control. To say positive.
How are you on Idra? Do you need any Idra?
Yeah, we have some if you like.
So
they
came in. They were in a featured tournament for them. They were not. They were in a little playpen, safe from scary people like Don Regu and Marine King and the such. And the thing was that in a lot of ways it was like watching earlier StarCraft 2. Like apparently people gave a lot of analogies to like what it was like in the beta and after, and that's characterized by like people using really aggressive builds were very successful because the early people who were successful at StarCraft 2, they tried to use macro builds, which didn't really work on the given map pool. Those macro builds were then sort of halved and sliced up to be rush builds because I know you never played on a lot of those early maps, but they were very small and very short, and they facilitated you rushing the shit out of people. That's why Marine King did pretty well at the beginning.
Smaller than Xel'Naga?
Yes. Well, Xel'Naga is really the only one that carried over, and Xel'Naga was, you were able to do things with Xel'Naga that you couldn't do with like Blistering Sands and that other one that was also nonsense. We're never going to see those maps again. They're not coming back. But what you mostly saw was they're very good at macro. They tried to play the game a lot like Brood War in the sense that they worked very slowly up to a certain level. Flash did eventually take the entire tournament. He played Terran, big surprise. Everybody else kind of fell in line behind that. There was one match that was I think it was Bisu maybe, where Tasteless and Artosis were really trying to give him a benefit of the doubt what his strat was, but it was very bad. Like he tried to do some sort of queen rush, but he didn't quite do it right. It's like Flash got a copy of this game.
I'm intrigued by the statement queen rush.
A lot of people have tried to do this though. Like TLO, like a lot of people have tried to try this. It is yet to really work because the big problem is that when you do that and the other guy just builds Marauders and Marines, you know what happens. So it was like Flash. It seemed like Flash had the game longer than they had somehow. So he was just a little bit ahead. He could have played at he could have gotten easily beaten in this tournament, but at a much later stage than the other guys. The other guys probably would have had a very bad time because their strats just weren't ready.
He would have won against Idra. Idra would have quit.
These guys aren't going to take that long, and once they do get there, their control in general, their macro is insane. Their understanding of economies. What they don't have is the time spent that someone like, let's say Marine King, for example, or MVP. MVP really understands timings. He knows if I go now, if I do this, if I do that. Like, there are things that MVP will do that you have no idea what happened. You know that he won, and then you see why he won in retrospect, because it's like, He just knew it was the time. And
there was one
it's
thing.
not that he has like ESP, it's that he has a really good understanding of the way the time flow of the game and the ebb and the flow. Like if I'm on 3, if he's on 2, happens this, I get this and I get that. Okay, now's the time to go, and I will push in with a very basic attack maybe, but it will work very well.
There was one thing that stood out talking about timings was when before the Flash games started. I forget which one I watched, but they were talking about how he always knows when and where to scan. And when you watch the game, sure enough, like he would be playing and then throw down a scan somewhere, and sure enough, Protoss would be walking by right at that time. Every single time he did, it was like really weird,
He knows. So that's exciting. There's
know.
a fresh of exciting new players.
Mix it up
right now.
break
not
the meta.
Well,
like I was just saying about League,
as long
man.
as we get
right
them,
now. They're not at competitive fighting weight. The fun thing will be that GSL, which is the premier brand, and Kespa, which is somehow slipped behind because of all the shenanigans with Blizzard.
Now what?
Those stars will meet in MLG, and that is a really awesome thing for MLG because that means
So it's like some sort of WWE, WCW crossover.
Exactly.
Now what build of StarCraft 2 ends up in MLG? Is it Heart of the Swarm? Is
Everything's going Heart of the Swarm.
first?
Everything's going to be Heart of the Swarm. Everything's going.
I
to
can't
Heart of the
wait for
Swarm.
that first MLG after Heart of the
That's
Swarm.
so weird. Like
There's going to be a long beta before it. And I know I would not say that it's going to happen after. I don't think it once the beta starts, the game gets played on a professional level.
mm-hmm.
When the full release comes, then they're just going to wholesale move on to the new game. I think that's reasonable.
I guess if it works, I hope it works for him.
The big thing, the last thing I'll say about MLG is that they included fighting games for the first time.
Like Soul Calibur or something.
I didn't watch
Mortal
any of
Kombat.
them, but I'm
King
sure.
of Fighters, I think I saw.
I think that's a
while.
really cool thing that they did that. They did a lot of different fighting games, so that was good.
I feel like when I went to the site this time, there was very clear, concise 3 things: StarCraft 2, League of Legends, the fighting game stuff.
Yes.
Right. Which in the
Maybe.
past has been Halo, StarCraft 2, some other thing. And now it seemed that Halo was kind of
I didn't even see
away.
any Halo
it was
anything.
away. Now
Did they do
that's
anything?
that's not to say that when Halo 4 comes out, Halo isn't going to be back up in your face.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe
I think
Halo's just
that-
petered out because it's
I think that one of the things that's very interesting about MLG is it's like one of these rolling E3 PAX types conventions that happens multiple times a year. It's a great way for publishers who have deemed products that fit into this mode to market to a dedicated audience. And this is going to be a really valuable thing for games.
Mhm.
I mean, it's always been it's always been the hardware manufacturers. But if once the developers and the manufacturers and all those guys get out there and say like, "Oh, this is our audience," they're going to be coming at them. They're going to come at them and say, "This is a great place to debut our products. This is a great place to showcase our products. This is how we build excitement for our products." This is a good thing all in all, I think, for fans, because fans can go and enjoy these special events, but these special events will become new ways to debut. I mean, the fact that Blizzard used this to show off this product, this was the kind of thing that they would show traditionally at an E3. And at E3, it doesn't mean anything because the press will be like, "Oh, okay, it's another esports game. We don't even know how to play this. I guess we'll see a showcase match. Oh, look, there's a guy playing it. I don't know what he's doing. I'm in the press." And there will be like 1 or 2 guys that would quote unquote get it. So I think this is a really good way for these developers to market their product. If their product is esport anything, this is how you do it. This is kind of shitty for Square because Square doesn't make these games, but whatever.
competitive Final Fantasy 15.
Well, isn't there the Final Fantasy FPS supposed to be out eventually? Final Fantasy 13 Versus or 15 Versus? Or...
No, it's never coming.
Well, hopefully it's never coming
well, what
out.
about that Persona fighting game? Maybe that'll be.
Oh, man, I can't wait for that game to come out. I'm totally buying the shit out of that.
All right. So we had.
How do we break your spirit that easily, Charlie?
Persona fighting game, I think, was enough.
The well, no, it's going to be that Sony All Stars game.
Parappa the Rapper, man.
Yeah. You remember?
If Umlama Jammy's in it, that's my jam.
Spin gears into the recently leaked info on the Xbox 720. Lack of a better term, we'll call it that. But
I think it says that in the document.
No,
no, I don't.
It is in quotes. Even Microsoft is using it as a quotes title.
Yeah. So a story that a lot of outlets picked up, and I first saw it on Ars Technica, that there was a leaked PowerPoint presentation that revealed a lot of stuff about the next Xbox, and just looking at like the what it's supposed to be hardware wise, I totally excited me because things like 4 gigs of RAM, x86 based processors, like tons of cores, like
13 cores.
Yeah, like stuff having separate stuff for graphics, for gameplay, for subsystem stuff. Like one of the problems with, as much as like a media center as the Xbox 360 is successfully, there's still a very discrete, like when you start a game, it replaces the operating system.
Yes.
And like, yeah, there's a cross media bar, but like the real difference between playing a game in Windows and playing a game on a console is that when you start that game, like that pretty much is like it. Like you're not in the operating system so much.
That system's effectively rebooting and starting a new system.
There ain't no alt tabbing out. And so I'm kind of hoping that like the because of the things that have changed in terms of like the power of x86 based processors, the advances in like multi-threading and multi-core. And I mean, you guys remember, and we even had discussions on this podcast going back. It's scary to think we've done this podcast long enough that we went back to like people were confused about how to deal with multiple cores.
Yes.
When I had a computer with 2 cores, and that was like crazy times. Like, how could you make a game use that? And now like the thing is developers got over that hump. And now it's like everybody's been talking for a while about now. The next console, maybe it'll just have the horsepower that we can have like AI threads and specialty this and specialty that and other stuff. And like, yeah, if they're going to be like, hey, 4 gigs of RAM and like here's all these cores you have access to, it's Intel based, or if it's Intel or ARM based, like that's not each one core runs the game, all the other ones Facebook.
I wouldn't be surprised. We got a Facebook core, we got a Twitter core.
The thing is,
all Facebook.
Facebook. The Cell and its 8 cores, they were all specialized, and they were all like specialized in a way where to develop for them was hard. But this architecture is, they're general purpose processing cores, just like a computer is, and it's like if you spent the last 4 years like working with making a PC port of a 360 game work better because you're figuring out how the multiprocessing works, like that will translate. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited because I think all I want, like whether I buy it or not, all I wanted was something that was just like unified with PC stuff and would not try to once again split the developer base and split how people were trying to do stuff. Because every time you're like, yo, we got this crazy like specialty power PC processor, and it's like, all right, so you're going to have, one specialty power PC processor here, one specialty 8-core power PC processor there, and the same x86 architecture that's been there forever that you can you still even make 64-bit games for. And it's like, make the engine run on all these things. Like, no, that's like wasting time. Like, you're not unifying, you're not putting all your resources into making like the best. You're making it work in every sort of weird case and every sort of weird architecture. So all I wanted was a a console that was just a little bit more in line with what a PC was, so that when we move forward over the next 6 years, or 10 years that this thing lives for, that like when people are developing and doing stuff, like it's useful and it's going to be useful for the next generation. I mean,
and so you don't really have to buy one; you can just get the games on Steam.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
You do now.
But you know, like Xbox went from a Pentium 3 733 to, I think it was a tri-core custom PowerPC processor, and now
part of that was to curb piracy, though.
And now they're going to where they're at now, and I think we know the answer to curbing piracy is, you're on the internet.
Yeah.
You got a key or you don't got. You got a key or you don't got a key. Like, that's pretty much all there is to it.
As was pulled from this this article too, was that they seem like they're quite interested in streaming games, and not streaming like going out, but coming in.
Well, I've tried the OnLive stuff. Like, I've checked that out, and it works. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but by the time this thing comes out, it'll probably be good enough.
So there you go. That could be in this. It looks like also too that they're highly focused on lots of different varieties of input. Not mouse and keyboard though.
Yeah, well, they're coming across with their all the glass stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and it's in line. Like, that's what I don't know, like, to what degree Microsoft has refuted any of this, but with the smart glass at E3,
the only thing they've
with
done,
the announcement of that tablet, like, this seems to be heavily, like, that sort of integration is like obviously where they're going.
As far as I know, the only thing
That
they've
tablet
done
looks
against
so me
this,
too though. So like Zune 2.0.
I would say that except for the keyboard.
the keyboard
looks
cover.
badass.
Yeah, that does look kind of badass. I can kind of dig that. I won't buy one, but I can kind of dig it.
Maybe, Charlie, if Microsoft never makes a product that's intuitive for the general public, maybe the problem is that maybe the Apple asks a question: how do I make something that someone with that fucking just? How could I make something that I could give to like a street peasant, like
A street peasant?
like a peasant in like 500 BC, and that person would be able to just jab at this and figure it out, like intuitive to the core of humanity, intuitive. Like
it's the work of the demons. Throw it to the mists.
No,
oh wait, angry birds.
Intuitive, like Apple thinks intuitive, like suckling your mother's breast. Whereas as Microsoft, it's just dudes exactly like me, and no matter how much you want to like say when the iPad came out, and I was like, yeah, this is just another piece of garbage, like not using it but on spec, and when I was like, yeah, I mean, they tried this before, like, this doesn't work, and like what Apple did, and it synergized and everybody loved it. But the reason I was skeptical, and the reason why like your Microsoft person is skeptical, is because my thing is like, well, where's the keyboard at? Because I'm not like a peasant from 500 BC. Like, I've spent the last 30 years of my life using a keyboard. Like, that's my input. It's not talking. It's not touching. Like, my input is clickety clacking.
Yeah.
And so when I see that keyboard, it's like I shed a single tear, because I know it's like no matter how hard they tried, they're still like, but there's no keyboard. Like, how you need a keyboard? You need a keyboard.
I don't know why they include a keyboard with their touchpad, but not with their video game system.
You get the thing that it plugs into the bottom of the controller.
I don't even think they sell that thing anymore.
Oh,
I used to when I would play.
Can I use that on my computer? Could I get rid of my keyboard
and use
just
that
and just use that as my keyboard?
I don't think you could. I remember when that thing came out, because I used to play 360 at that time. I would play it so much that I was like, I need that keyboard thing, because it will make just conversing much easier, you know, when you're using just the text messages. And then like 3 months passed, and I started using my computer again.
No, in fairness, Charlie, you can use a keyboard with the 360. You just can't use it in games.
Yes.
Again.
I don't know. I don't know.
What are they afraid of? PC gamers?
The whole thing that I kind of saw, and like I said, I didn't get to see the entire PowerPoint thing, but the little bits that I saw, it really just comes across as like who knows what we're gonna see, because this is really just somebody dropped this out of the marketing department.
Right.
Like this is not from the engineers or anything.
Yeah, well, the one
Like,
chart
this-
that excited me most, like one of the multi-processor boxes had a box around it with a thought bubble that was like always on the internet.
Yes,
question mark?
is it
And I'm
always
like,
connected? I
yeah.
saw that one.
I was like, yep.
Oh,
So at least this sheds some sort of light into what's going on with. We know they're working on this. There's too much money.
Oh,
into it
yeah,
for them not
yeah.
to be. Who knows what
They should
level
be.
of process.
Hopefully, they're far. They should be far.
I hope they are, because I moved.
Well, the leaks that we expect now that we understand about supply chain have not come yet. So that doesn't mean that means that they haven't invested into hardcore fabrication yet.
yeah,
Which is always the first tell.
but if nothing else, like I mean, like Epic knows something they can't tell us, because there's no way that the Unreal 4 engine is not.
oh,
being
that's
built
already
around.
running on whatever the new.
So
product
the
is,
final
yeah.
the finalization in terms of like the specs, like maybe that's not even decided yet, or maybe it is. I don't know, but like Epic has to know a lot of what's going on, because it would be a catastrophe if the Unreal 4 engine isn't being built around like what the capabilities of this machine is going to be.
You know, the thing I heard that was really interesting is that, this wasn't in that article, it was in another article, was that that it's not going to use Google, it's going to use the new Yahoo browser.
I can't believe you just found out about this.
I didn't know about it either.
Oh no, it came out like a month ago, dude. It's called like Axis or Axion or something like that.
Access, I believe, not Axis. The axis of evil.
Like I said,
it was described, as I heard, as
That's
this would be a bad
retarded.
guy
the,
in a
the,
90s movie.
the signing, the private key for signing
Is it just
was included in one of the files, and immediately like made it so that you could like boot like a plugin that would be authentic.
Why is Yahoo even still in business? That's
'Cause I
actually
gotta keep-
why is AOL still in
I have
business?
to keep my email somewhere, dude.
AOL is not really in business.
They are, as a matter of fact. I can tell you they're doing very, very well somehow.
The intellectual property that was AOL, yes, but all the technology that they ever built is not. They no longer support AIM, and if they don't support AIM, they're not AOL.
They support AIM.
No, they
The
don't.
weird
They're
thing
done
is
with
when
AIM.
you think of
AIM is
No,
done.
they're not done with it.
AIM is done. AIM is been supported by other things, but the product that is AOL Instant Messenger is done.
yeah, it's a protocol now, but not a product. So, but the funny thing is if you remember, AOL had a bunch of really addictive games that were no less innovative than anything Zynga's done.
Yeah.
It's just like like the fact that Zynga had those games and that they made zillions of dollars, like that's a no-brainer. Like the difference between AOL and Facebook in the game space is that Facebook just has more users than AOL did. Therefore, there's more money to be made.
Yeah. Right.
But like those games on Facebook, like those are like AOL games, just like, and I suppose in a lot of ways,
I'm
like
still trying to figure out how
Facebook is the retarded stepchild of AOL.
I know this is a
All
little.
those Facebook games were just Flash games, anyways. Flash games are just as popular. They just don't. You just can't tell that Bob's playing kick the gopher. You know, it's just there's visibility on that bullshit.
In the late 90s, there were people who only knew the internet as Newgrounds.
Yeah, and you can tell when people
Why
are
doesn't
playing
Newgrounds
games
have
on
their own
Newgrounds.
browser?
They do.
Their own browser?
I don't know. Yeah, they
Now you're talking crazy.
They downloaded Chrome, replaced all the. They did a find,
replace, Google,
Chrome.
Yahoo, yeah.
And then they released it, but they left the plugin. So, actually, speaking of Newgrounds, the new version of Firefox and the new version of Flash for the last 3 weeks crash completely. You can't do anything with Flash.
There was a patch pushed through Firefox today.
Oh, was it out today?
I don't know. I was told to update on my work copy. So
I haven't looked today.
I don't have Firefox.
Although
on
now
my
that you mentioned it,
computers.
I didn't speak to anybody that was complaining about crashes today. So maybe it's fixed. But yeah, it was like 3.5, 4 weeks.
I just want a web browser that all it is like, it's not actually web browser. It's just VNC.
You just want links.
No, I just want a web browser that's really just VNC, and it takes you to a machine that has the correctly installed version of all the browsers with all their plugins and just shows you the right thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that ain't happening. Dude.
All right, let's go back to talking.
I can make it happen.
Can we go back to talking about video games?
So you want to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with what you've been playing, and then be out.
No, we can't be out. We gotta.
And then second to last hit.
Do a second
Second to last. We will be out, but second to last hit will be in.
Okay,
Yes.
I thought you were trying to
No,
get out of here. I was like,
No, I'm just saying
sun's
that
not
we
even
would
down.
do our end our news topic, and get on to
Tonight.
All right, we'll take a quick break.
Tonight you'll be playing Graves, and you'll be playing it in a ranked draft game where you start the chat with Graves or Feed.
I've played Graves before, so that doesn't work on second to last hit.
Yeah, but you'll learn how to actually use Graves.
Oh,
You won't burn all your mana in the first.
That's
10 minutes.
unfortunate. In which case you're playing Rumble. Thanks for telling us, Steve.
Oh, dude, he's playing Sona.
Jungle Sona or Feed.
All right, well, we'll be right back.